let's talk about something that no one really talks about, which is why adult friendships are so hard to maintain and create, and what we can actually do about it. Modern friendships are contextual, they are based on where you went to school, who you grew up with, where you went to work, and maybe the hobbies that you spend your time doing outside of work. And oftentimes, those friendships, once those contacts and those bubbles change, your friendships also change and they fade. And I know that's really, really sad, but I'm pretty sure that all of you listening have over 500 Instagram followers, and only two of those people on your friends list are people you would actually call at 2 a.m. if something went wrong. The reason for this is we oftentimes mistake proximity to connection. That is really unfortunate because we think that because we spend so much time with someone, with our coworker or our friend from school, that we are so deeply intimate and deeply connected. But that's not the reality. When you sit with yourself and ask yourself the question of, does this person really know who I am at my core? Does this person know all the things I think about when I'm by myself? Does this person know my deepest dreams and hopes? Oftentimes, you'll find that these surface level connections, these people that you spend a huge amount of time with, they actually don't know you like the way you would hope to be known and understood. Experiencing a serious loneliness epidemic happening here in the United States, and I'm sure other parts of the world as well. We've lost all of our third spaces. We have we no longer have places where we can really connect in and be community. Everybody drives, so there's not really any walking cities where you can just randomly chance upon people. And overall, everybody is so connected to their phones, and the internet addiction is incredibly real. Social media makes it seem like everybody has a friend group, a ton of girlfriends, a ton of guy friends, amazing families, but that's simply not the case because over 61% of people are experiencing deep loneliness in their lives. So much of adult friendships is two phases. I believe it's one is really getting to know yourself so you really understand your own needs and preferences and who you want to be as a person and as a friend individually on your own. And then the second phase is being surrounded by people who really want to show up for you and care about you in a deep and authentic way outside of the activity that you're doing, like school, work, hobbies, playing a game, etc. So for me, growing up, I had a ton of trouble making friends. I definitely was one of those people who was completely surrounded by hobbies and just people. But I felt incredibly, incredibly lonely. And I couldn't really figure out this answer to my problem for many years, all the way into my mid 20s. And I would say, even beyond then, into my late 20s, that's when I really figured out, okay, who am I? And what kind of friend do I want to be? And what kind of friends and communities do I want to be in? And that can take a really long time to figure out. But once you figure out who you want to surround yourself with, here are my top tips on how you can actually maintain your relationships and actually deepen them. So, my number one practical tip for staying in touch with your friends is simply finding a sustainable way for you to check in with your friends in a way that actually feels good to you. So, if you're really bad at texting, honestly, don't force yourself to be on your phone and text back. Because for me, if you text me, it'll take me a week to get back. If you are great at texting, then what you want to do is you may want to create a group chat with your best friends and be that person who's creating that group. If you're really good at calling and you know that calling works for you, maybe you start calling every time you're running an errand or driving somewhere or commuting or doing something that allows you to have a little bit of free time. So, my number one thing is finding a way to check in with your friends and yourself in a way that is actually sustainable. My favorite way of checking with my friends is with an app I actually created with a few of my best friends. and it's an app called Letterloop. You can create a private group newsletter, and it's super easy to use. You go in and you create your Letterloop, and you ask questions, and you everybody can ask and answer questions. And at the end of the month, you all get a beautiful newsletters with everybody's life updates, and it's literally the best thing ever. So if you're someone who sucks at texting, you're super busy, and you just love a simple way to stay in touch without all of the gimmicky group chats coordinating the Zooms, or maybe your friends live far apart and you guys are long distance, this is one of the best ways I found to actually stay in touch with my friends from all over the world. My second practical tip is kind of related, but it's really around creating shared rituals. So, with the people in your life that you really want to spend intentional time with, what are the ways in which you can create rituals in your life that are conducive for deeper connection? And some ideas for this are a monthly coffee date, maybe with your best friend who's in the area. Another idea is maybe you are hosting a annual friend retreat and you all do something that you love to do together, and maybe you guys rotate hosting or planning. I did this with my friends for many years, and it was literally the sweetest thing, and we actually kept it going for almost 4 years until shit happened with the friend group, but that's a story for another time. Another idea for a ritual is something along the lines of sending each other an update. It could be a text, it could be a letter loop issue, it could be a gift like a note or a handwritten card, monthly, whatever cadence makes sense for you. But these are just some ideas of how you can add rituals of gratitude and love and connection into your daily life. And for me, what's really worked practically has been scheduling dates with people on a consistent basis. Like, hey, every single X number of weeks, we're going to connect and talk and catch up. Two, letter loops with larger groups of friends and families and extended family that I don't see often. And I want to just share an update and let everybody know that this has also worked really well for any sort of long distance work friends I want to stay in touch with, and also family abroad. And then the third one, again, that I love is just a simple text. And sometimes you can also establish cadences with your friends where you're just going to say, hey, I'm going to send you an emoji, and that just means I'm thinking of you, and you don't have to respond. And maybe you can also start using voice notes. And then my very last practical tip is don't overthink it. If you are thinking of someone or feeling an impulse of generosity, just listen to it and don't ignore it. So if you're thinking about your friend, if you're thinking about your mom, or thinking about your dad, or thinking about your sister, or thinking about a random work friend you haven't talked to in many years, just give them the call. Reach out, text, because you never know what's going on for the other person, and most likely they want to hear from you too. Incredibly hard, and everybody is experiencing loneliness of some type, shape, or form. So it's okay to start from zero and admit that, hey, I have no friends, and I'm going to start building friendships, and that is completely okay. My favorite ways of staying in touch with my friends and family is one, creating shared rituals, two, actually creating sustainable ways to check in, and really finding and experimenting with yourself the actual methods that work for you. And this is going to take some work and some experimentation. Just be gentle with yourself and explore until you find something that actually makes sense and is sustainable. And then the last thing is, I didn't really touch on this, but I do really believe that so much of maintaining and having great friendships is connecting with yourself and really understanding who you are and what you want. And that's a conversation for a separate video. But if you have any tips that you love to stay in touch with your friends, or if you've tried any method here that I described and it's really worked for you, I'd love to hear them in the comments below.